Once again, welcome to our second episode of the top 10 uses for AI, especially focused on the public sector. Thank you. We have our honored guest here, Gregory North, who will be driving the conversation. Please make this an interactive session. Please ask many questions. My name is Angela Gibson, as you know, and Abraham's Consulting has been serving the federal, state, and local government, as well as educational institutions for the past 19 years. We are also a minority women-owned small business, certified with the Small Business Association, and we have four main practice areas, which include staff augmentation, IT hardware and software reselling, niche solutions around storage, security, and networking, managed services, and we have additional services as well, as you can see on the screen. So thank you so much for joining. Do know that we are here ready and waiting for you to tap us so we can help you solve some of your IT challenges. So over to Mr. North.
Thanks very much, Angela. It's a pleasure and privilege to be a partner with Abraham's Consulting, and it's great to be speaking with you all today. We're here to talk about the work that many of you are doing in the public sector and perhaps other sectors related to artificial intelligence. Global North has a great deal of experience in this, not only because we're thinking about it in terms of technology innovation, but because of the strategic importance of it. Our focus in our practice is on strategy, innovation, and achieving transformational performance. We're working with public sectors right now on things like the Gen AI pilots we're going to be talking about today in our webinar, but also thinking about AI in terms of policy development and overall business systems transformation integration with large platforms and systems. The first thing I want to check on is, were you all in our earlier webinar? We had one just a few weeks ago. So if you can type into the chat, yes. If you were part of our first round, that would be helpful. And that'll give us some background on who's already been to the first session that we've had, and then we'll use that as an opportunity to determine how much refresh we have to do from session 1 before we dive into session 2.
Okay, Jara, no. Stephen, yes.
Okay. Well, the good news is whether you're in the first session or not, team, we're going to give you a quick refresher on this Gen AI revolution. Why is it important for us to be talking about it? Well, we're specifically looking at this in the context of the public sector agencies and your challenges. We're going to double click into very specific examples of Gen AI use cases, and then talk about how you and your organizations can really get started to take full advantage of these capabilities in the future. And frankly, with the group we have today, answer any questions you have, offer assistance we have to help you get started. So let's just talk about generative AI, generative artificial intelligence, in terms of the true revolution that it represents. Revolution in the sense, team, that it's not an evolutionary step from prior ways of working, an evolutionary step from the kinds of capabilities we've been used to seeing in software solutions. It is a revolutionary step in that we're beginning to move truly towards the concept of having AI take its place in the digital workforce. AI start to be part of the team that we have to get our work done, both as individual contributors, as people who are in a department, as part of a workforce for an agency-wide opportunity. And as that digital workforce starts to become a bigger component of what's available to us, how will this change the ways of working for humans as well? Why is it such a game changer? Because generative AI has the ability not to simply do one thing, but to do so many things. Later, you'll hear me refer to it as a Swiss Army knife. It's a collection of capabilities, talents, superpowers, the ability to be able to read, to create images, to analyze, to create data, to interact with human language, and basically create through chat an ability and even voice to have a conversation with a machine, help you generate ideas, help you generate content, be able to manage tasks and automate. Ultimately, all of these are things that we might have thought of being separate in the past, and now they're not only together, but they're capabilities that continue to evolve, expand, because generative AI is based upon large language models that are constantly learning. They're trained over the course of months with extraordinary amounts of data that represents trillions of bits of information, almost all the publicly available information on the internet, and they're bringing that power to you to start with, but then they're bringing on new and additional capabilities based upon the context and interaction with you. That means they're learning with you as they go. We're seeing massive gains in productivity. We'll talk more about that in just a little while, team. But really across a wide variety of different possible uses, from interacting with the public that you support in your agency, interacting with your own employees, being able to do research, developing content like training programs and materials, doing software development, such as creating new websites, updating computer programs. We're going to touch on each of these examples in the top AI use cases in just a moment. But we want to make sure we understand before we go there, why are we even talking about Gen AI and this revolution? Why is it so important for us to make sure it's part of the strategic kit of our agencies going forward? The first one is because it's becoming part of the environment all of us are living in. I'm guessing everyone here on this call today has a smartphone. That smartphone has generative AI built in. Whether it's an Android or an iPhone, it has something like a device that's going to be able to access a tool like ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot and use voice to be, or Gemini, and use voice to be able to interact with you, to say, here's what I'm looking at, tell me about that, help me understand it. Your Office tool suite, if you're using Microsoft Office, you're probably seeing Copilot pop up on your toolbar now, so it's embedded in the tools that you're using. If you're in a smart home, you're using Google Home or something like that, we're beginning to see just this past month, Google has now rolled out a new version of Google Home that has generative AI built into it. Ultimately, generative AI, therefore, has now become part of our personal operating environment. If you think about it just in terms of OpenAI's ChatGPT market share, in early 2022, when they first released their product of ChatGPT, there were 0 users. By now, there's nearly a billion users. So a significant portion of the world's population is already on Gen AI, which means that organizations well aware of this are starting to think about how they can use it. Bain's 2023-2024 survey, which they're in the process of updating now for 2025, showed continued acceleration of adoption by agencies, including public sector as well as private sector. But ultimately, we're looking at 95% of US companies reporting US generative AI as being utilized at some level. Use cases were assessed at being most likely to meet or exceed expectations at a rate of 80%. And 60% of the responders to the survey indicated they saw very significant business gains associated with leveraging generative AI as part of their new operating model going forward. So individuals are beginning to make generative AI part of their lives, and organizations are making it part of the way all of us are working. Which means that your teams, your staff, probably you, are already using generative AI to some greater or lesser extent. If you're, however, responsible for strategy or operations or technology at your agency, what you might not have is good visibility into exactly how agency staff is using it. So yeah, it's probably out there, people are tapping it, but I don't really know what they're using it for, because there's not a central way to really understand what it looks like. And there's not necessarily an agency strategy about where we want to apply the power of Gen AI. And perhaps most concerning is that people might be using personal accounts, public commercial accounts, to explore the potential of using ChatGPT or Copilot or other tools, but not necessarily doing it in a smart, secure way with an instance that's controlled by and limited by your teams in your organizations. So the question is, it's being used today, how is it being used, and is it being used safely? So let's take an opportunity to check in with you and get your own personal sense. In your personal lives, and maybe even in your personal use at work, are you already beginning to see usage of and benefit from Gen AI in your world? So just type in the chat if there's an example of something where you're finding some benefit that you're getting from Gen AI. Give us a sense of what that might be. Is there something that you're seeing where it's already helping you? We'd love to hear about that.
Yes,
And
yes, please chat it up
what was
here in the
that?
chat. I'm just encouraging people to go ahead and respond in the chat.
Okay, cool. Thank you. If you're not already seeing benefits from AI, we'd love to have you at least identify, are you out there working? Are you in a sense exploring Gen AI yourself individually? And if you are, it would be nice to know what you're using. Are you using ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini? Let us hear about kind of your personal experience to get a sense of what you are exploring at this point in your personal journey of getting to know your Gen AI teammate. Let's think specifically, team, about the public sector agency opportunity. And I want to be clear here, if you're a for-profit company or a nonprofit, the types of use cases we're talking about definitely apply to you. There's no question about that. However, there are some unique challenges that we have in the public sector, and we really want to make sure we understand that and work out from those challenges when we talk about our use cases. So the first one is there's no question that there's a constraint on resources. Public sector agencies are constantly asked to do more with less, finding a need to be able to get transformational levels of productivity, transformation levels of additional scale in what you're doing is critical, because it's hard to keep the workforce you have, and it's hard to bring in new folks into the public sector world in order to be able to expand and meet the needs that continue to expand in front of you. So how to keep your people from getting burnt out is to find a way to give them some more time back. We also know that in the public sector, often the pace of change in information systems can be slower. So this means that you have many, often disaggregated legacy systems. Those information systems are silos or islands of data. Those islands of data are ones where ultimately information is hard to pull together and understand in aggregate. So understanding not only how to pull information together in a way that's useful to you, so you have what you need when you need it, but also being able to have more real-time information and not having to feel like you have to wait for the legacy systems to kick back in and tell you where things are and what's happening. Or perhaps to even respond when you're looking for the need to get a new solution. So procurement processes in the public sector can take a while to get custom IT solutions, whether they're ones that are going to be tailored to your needs, or you're just simply trying to pull new capabilities in that you don't have today in. It'd be great to check with you in the chat at this point and find out, are folks trying to now go through the process of procuring AI capabilities? And if you are is your experience that it's happening at a pretty fast pace? Or is it taking a while for you? Would you like to see it go faster in terms of your ability to get the AI kick that you're looking for into your organizations? What's your sense? Are you trying to procure some capabilities, and are you finding your experience to be fast enough, or do you need to go faster in terms of getting your solutions? These are all things that we have seen as we work with public sector clients, where people are saying basically, help me help my workforce, help me get across this set of islands of data that are currently fragmented, and help me find a way to get this all done less expensive and frankly faster. Well, the good news is Gen AI is exactly that. It is a less expensive, much faster solution that gives your people time back. So regardless of what the function is they have in your agency, there are potentially hours a day of productivity that are available. And it's documented. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania study looked at having 30 to 95 minutes a day from its participants returned in terms of freed up time that allowed them to work on new things that in the past would have been taken up by activities that now would be either covered off with Gen AI doing the work, or potentially Gen AI doing it faster, which allows them to get that done as a next step much more quickly. In addition, as I said a moment ago, Gen AI is going to give you this additional productivity transformational boost in a way that allows you to have an ever-expanding kit of potential capabilities available. And it's really a different mental mindset for us to have. Most of us grown up in a world where we have one type of software that's helping us with, for example, generating new documents like Word. We have another tool that's helping us do sort of advanced calculations and numbers like Excel. Or we then have a third capability we might use that helps us figure out if I'm trying to go from JFK Airport to a specific hotel, what's the fastest way and what's the right transportation to use. Those are three very different things. Like one's a phone, one's Excel, one's Microsoft Word. Well, in the new world of Gen AI, one specific capability like ChatGPT can help you do all the things I just described. And it can do it by a voice interaction. You could say, I would like you to help me find my way to the fastest path to get to this particular hotel. I would like you to help me generate this new document and then format it in Word. I have a complex calculation I'm about to upload the spreadsheet to you. Please analyze it for me. That's different than the world we've lived in. All those capabilities now can be found in one place. The Gen AI leaders like Claude from Anthropic, Copilot from Microsoft, Gemini from Google, and ChatGPT from OpenAI are all beginning to take the power of their generative AI capabilities and bring them to the unique requirements of government. They're thinking about how government agencies, both federal, state, and local, have distinct requirements. What they're beginning to partner with entities. I mentioned Commonwealth of Pennsylvania a moment ago. They're pilots that we're directly involved in right now. We're working with these organizations and with the agencies to help them come together and deploy. They're learning about what makes the most sense for them, and they're offering to these agencies highly discounted rates to get going, to learn about how generative AI can be part of the world going forward. And that was resulting in adoption, which, although it's still behind the private sector, is really beginning to accelerate in public sector engagements. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Microsoft have all deployed not only some very tailored enterprise instances, which are secured for you, but they're also FedRAMP compliant. They're not trained on your data, your contracts, your private or personal information. They are basically locked down prior to, as trained models prior to you using them. And therefore, they are not going to have any new training, unlike public models based upon the chats that you or your agency staff had with them. You can also take those enterprise instances that are government compliant, and you can help them be able to understand your policies, your procedures, et cetera, in such a way that they are responding only within the context of your agency's work, and making sure whether you're responding internally or externally to the general public, consistent with only the information that your agency would want it to present. Now, whether it's OpenAI, Anthropic, or Microsoft, there's going to be different strengths. The frontier model, the human interaction capability of ChatGPT is very well known. Anthropic's Claude is less well known, but it's extraordinarily capable in terms of its ability to work with software, its security. It's available to work in highly classified models today if you're working in areas where there's high sensitivity. Microsoft Copilot, obviously from a Microsoft Edge standpoint, the fact is they have the ability to interoperate with all of the Microsoft platforms in the Office suite through the Microsoft Graph capability. As a result, depends on which one of these is the strength you most need for your particular agency and use case. But most importantly, all of these and other organizations as well, including Gemini from Google, are beginning to take what they do best in this large language model work and make it tailored specifically to a secure enterprise instance for government. So let's check in and find out, has your agency already begun to adopt a specific approach to using Gen AI? Perhaps you partnered with OpenAI or others and started to pull it into your agency. Let's just do a quick check in the chat. Who's out there already using Gen AI in their agency today? They have a strategy for how it's deployed, perhaps in an enterprise secured instance for your organization. Just let Angela and the team here
And we
know in
can
the
get
chat.
some answers. Yes, yes, no, no. Not seeing any responses yet.
So does that mean that folks aren't using Gen AI in their agency today? Oh, we're getting a couple.
Ryan says no. Steven says yes, he is. Oh, Steven says no. No. Steve says no. Ryan says no. No, they're not using it.
Okay, well, the good news, team, is if you're not using it today, you're in the right place. Because we're going to talk quickly about really the examples that you would use and we could help you use to demonstrate the value of bringing generative AI capability to your organizations. So first up is the world of data. Not surprisingly, one of the things that computers are a lot better at than humans are is managing large amounts of data. And as we said earlier, data fragmentation, islands of data across your organization. Here's data in the human resource platform. Here's data over here in the finance platform. Here's data over here in operational metrics and controls that we have. Those are all in very different places. How do we pull that all together? How do we create the information that allows us to make better, faster, smarter decisions? Well, more and more organizations are trying to find ways to use data to drive decision makings in ways that are closer and closer to real time. That requires them to get to dashboards. So dashboards are something that many agencies are trying to build today to help them basically build bridges across fragmented data. In the world before Gen AI, it would often take you months, maybe even years to build out these dashboards. Let's use this example of 4 to 9 months. Here, you're going with the model of you and the department or departments are getting together to agree on requirements. You're sending them off to the IT organization. You may or may not have to engage consultants to help you. There's integrator fees, there's licensing, et cetera. Ultimately, you're pulling that all together with manual coding done by software engineers responsible for the APIs and the schema of the data analytics design. If you want to make changes to the key process indicators on the dashboard, it could take weeks to request those and get a response back. You've got multiple ongoing vendor contracts that you have in. You're kind of locked into a model. And if you want to go back and do a new spin on your dashboard, that's going to be a change order. Ultimately, going forward with tools like Power BI, Tableau as flexible engines for dashboards as a presentation layer, you have the ability to then have Gen AI be your co-pilot to get in there with you and help you build that out very quickly. Remarkably, Gen AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, etc., have the ability to write code, to generate APIs, to analyze and understand how to connect different tools. So if you asked, for example, ChatGPT to build you a set of APIs to go from your existing platforms to Power BI, for example, to build the dashboard out, it can do that for you. It has an ability to look at under the hood, how are those systems designed, how are they configured, and actually write the code. We're working with clients now where in the tech department, they are using ChatGPT or other tools like that to be able to write the code for them that gets report generation down from hours of work manually they were doing as software engineers into minutes, and creating automatically generated capabilities for new reporting that in the past would have required requests into IT and additional manual work on their part. So they're taking hours of work that in the past might have been done by software engineers and turning that into minutes of fast response to data analytics questions coming in from their user base. Here, the example of before Gen AI is we're looking at something like $150,000 to $500,000 of a mix of external and internal costs. And in the post-Gen AI world, the world we're in today, it's really the cost of an individual's time on your team, one internal analyst, perhaps an IT reviewer for QA, but also your AI assistant who's now doing the API connectors, generating queries, which are validated by a human. That means we're going from hours, from weeks, to basically hours to get this work done. In that world, you're now able to build data analytic bridges, connecting fragmented data extremely quickly. And in so doing, you have the opportunity to show how your organization is able to get more information faster to make better decisions, save money, allocate resources, reschedule individuals who have to be covered for. Whatever the question is you're trying to solve for, this approach to dealing with data fragmentation allows you to connect the dots across your enterprise, because you're allowing AI to say, source where the data is, help us build those connections, and then help us present that going forward. Second use case, training. So this is a common use case in the public sector where you may go outside to have a consulting organization or others help you come in and develop a new training program. This is something we do at Globe North. I'm very familiar with this. You might say, help us design the curriculum, help us develop the materials, help us be able to put together facilitator plans, speaker notes, exercises. In the past, that could have been months of activity just to get to the original pilot. It could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in external costs to do that. You'd have to have weeks between versions, and you would probably get very polished materials, but they would also be ones that if you wanted them updated, you'd have to go back with a change order back to the consulting firm you're working with and saying, hey, we would like to make some changes with this. Can you give us a new revision of it? For next year's program, we'd like to see it differently. So now let's go from months to weeks. In the GenAI model, we're looking at 2 to 4 weeks to produce the draft. That's still with a human in the loop. It would take you hours at most to get to that first draft. But then if you wanted the final finished polished ones, you could iterate over time with GenAI. GenAI would do the initial drafts in minutes. The humans would be there working with their internal partners to validate it. But again, from months to weeks. Costs from something close to $250,000 in cost, typically for a large-scale agency training program, to less than the cost of an individual FTE. Basically, the time in the clock for them plus their digital teammate to do this work together. Again, from months to weeks. And bonus here is if you need to go back and modify, the cost now of doing this is just the time on the clock for your internal resource plus your basically a digital assistant to help them redo the program and quickly say, if this is a change, now flow that across the entire curriculum, update the speaker notes, update the materials, update the exercises, and it can do all that basically for you in minutes. Third use case, deep research. In the public sector, it is very common for us to be asked to do very significant briefs. Help us pull together information for the general public, help us pull together information for senior executive leadership to make key decisions on where we need to make changes to policy or to practice. It could take weeks to scan the public sector data required to produce a substantial brief. And that's a brief. If you were doing a deep report for external publication, it could take months. But let's go with the example of a substantial brief for leadership. Here we're saying it takes 3 to 8 weeks to scan the environment out there, gather the necessary information, synthesize it, analyze it, be able to determine what the important insights are we want to share from the research, build out things like examples, tables, citations, create the formatting, and then publish it. In the GenAI world, the 3 to 8 weeks is more like 3 to 10 days. Again, the initial drafts from GenAI could take, with even deep search, only a few hours. And then the days is the iteration back and forth with the human in the loop that's doing the reviewing and the iteration with AI to get all the information backed up to validate that it's accurate. 1 to 3 analysts plus a manager in the before GenAI example, just the analyst and the reviewer in the second. Costs up to $100,000 down to less than an FTE, $30,000 or less, just the time on the clock for this analyst to work with their AI teammate. A human can only read so fast. If you want to add more work and you want to cover more scope, you're going to have to put a bigger team together that's reading it in parallel. We had one team we're working with that was doing market research for public information related to some financial briefs they were pulling together. And they had a team of 10 people spending the better part of 3 months pulling together that research. They then asked ChatGPT to basically do the same task, and they were able to complete the same amount of work in less than 2 days. Ultimately, if you do this in such a way that you take full advantage of the automation capabilities of GenAI, not only is the scan speed dramatically faster, but the ability to do things like build in automatically generated notes, citations, links, tags, comparisons, create an audit trail showing you how the research was pulled together, asking it to put a table of contents in place for you. All of that work can be done based upon the prompt that you generate in order to basically commission your deep research assistant to do the work for you. Next use case, customer service chat. This is one that we're very familiar with, which is the ability of GenAI to provide a chat bot. But what we may not have thought about in the past was the fact that This is no longer something where we're trying to procure a chat bot that will then be trained and developed by a company and tailored to what we're doing in such a way that we have to pay them to design and train this model. That's the before Gen AI model. That could have taken months. Maybe we've seen examples between 400 and about $1.5 million of customization associated with that work. That number is starting to come down a bit, depends on whether you're talking to enterprise grade, but ultimately, let's call it even at the low end, $500,000. In today's world with Gen AI, you have out-of-the-box large language capable models that are able to do human interaction and do not have to be trained to get that then you can have subject matter experts within your organization do the actual work, not software engineers, not a procured outside resource, but you can actually use your team's ability to design and implement with Gen AI. And in so doing, they can create either through an agent and Copilot or a custom GPT or using the LLM notebook capabilities of Gemini, they can create new resources available to basically provide that customer service experience either for the general public or internally. And as you're doing that work, you now have an ability to have your teams quickly iterate with the new chatbot. They train it, and that through their work, identify here's the policies, procedures, or body of knowledge you want them to respond to. Here's the types of responses you want them to have. Here's disclaimers you want them to include. And all of that will give them the ability to create a framed out, highly responsive, and engaging chatbot that can point to other places in your agency where they can get additional information. So whether it's internal requests coming from your staff to HR, or whether it's external folks that you're trying to support the general public, a great way to get the costs of interactions down and the quality of the experience up. Finally, use case 5, personal productivity. This is one of the really the favorites that the folks that we work with talk about every day, which is how Gen AI is really changing the way I work. I can personally tell you my experience in the last 24 hours. I was working with several different clients. I was on a train last night from New York City to Albany. As I was going on that trip, I assigned my digital teammate a task to do to create work. I delegated out the work that they was going to do while I was off working on something else. We made an agreement for it to send me a reminder that when I got up this morning, it was going to help me integrate what it did with what I did. We pulled that together in a presentation that it helped me build out based upon its content, mine merged. And then we were able to use that time back that I had to make sure that my other commitments for the clients that I wasn't working on with Gen AI got covered off. Basically, it's as if I had a whole new team working next to me, but it also giving me capability and reach I didn't have before. And this is super important. Notice it gave me an opportunity to have someone to collaborate with on my own work, even if my other team members weren't available. So it gave me an ability to delegate, but it also gave me access to information and ideas that I wouldn't have had because it's not in my head, but the good news is my digital teammate was able to access information I don't have. So whether it's daily planning, managing reminders, meeting prep, creating follow-up, little automations that you set up to have it come back and say every so often, go make sure this happens and then take action based on that. Or it's the kind of research and writing that you do on a regular basis. We have one client that feels like her personal experience at work has been transformed because Gen AI has really coached her to have a different approach for how she manages her internal communications. The memos that she writes, the emails that she generates, she's gotten a lot of personal coaching from her, frankly, digital teammate. So there you go. Whether it's using Gen AI to build bridges across fragmented data and provide better analytics and decision making, helping you to develop content and deliver it like training programs, doing deep research to inform your leadership and the general public on key decisions, providing support for interactions with the general public and with internal folks, or just making your own ability to get through the day easier and better in terms of productivity and output. Those are all examples of how Gen AI is helping transform work with our clients. I would like to pause at this moment and have you type into the chat which of the use cases that you heard about in the session today are most resonant with you. Which ones would you say, that's an example of something that could really help my department at my agency? Or maybe there's several that you heard that you thought would be Good for you. So Angela, let's take a look at what's in the chat. Are people excited about maybe pulling together data real quickly, developing new content like training programs, doing deep research? Or is it that
Yes.
personal productivity thing?
Please tell us. We'd love to be able to meet with you one-on-one for sure, depending on your need, your use case interest. Don't see any response so far.
Well, let's go to how to get started. Okay. So keys to success. First and foremost, it's important to get going. And it's better to start small and expand than it is to try to create some large scale program. So you can reach out to some of the organizations like Abraham's Consulting Globe in order to be able to help you get started, in order for you to be able to make sure that you're applying generative AI capability in the right way, the smart way, the safe way, and to do it in a way that allows you then to manage up and pitch to your senior executive leadership as required, where it makes sense to make the right investment, and also how to do so smartly with the right governance. Help get beyond the hype of what Gen AI can do to show through these types of pilots in a controlled way what it will do. Where should you pilot? Well, it's important to pick a few examples where a little maneuver would have a big effect. Where are you most constrained? Where do you have high volume tasks and you're limited in terms of time and money? Where could you really use a significant productivity gain? It's important to also do, even if you're piloting this in a secure way. So how do you make sure that you've got an enterprise instance that's safe for uploading the documents, data, that is secured for your agency and not something that's going to be used commercially or publicly by others? How to make sure there's people inside who become excited and powerfully influenced by the possibilities like you are. So how do you get champions going? And how do you define some measures of success that show what the return on investment from investing in generative AI looks like? And based upon those ROIs, let's start showing what the results really are and get people excited about going forward in our organizations. And why should they be excited? Because if you look around at the organizations already using Gen AI, they're seeing very, very powerful results. How do we get that train moving in our departments, in our agencies? Path forward, we'd be happy to meet with you, work with you, help you to understand how to make sure that as you think about Gen AI, or you're thinking about it in ways that aligns to the needs of your agency and its strategy. Are you doing this in a way that takes full advantage of what other people know how to do, and of the partners that are trying, like OpenAI and others, to reach out to government right now and make that connection work? Are you doing it in such a way that your workforce is prepared? Does IT, HR, finance understand what they need to be doing for you to be successful in this going forward, in terms of both securing it and investing in it? Cybersecurity, what should they be thinking about? What types of things should you be looking for in terms of FedRAMP or other certifications that allow you to feel good about the level of control you're going to have when you adopt an approach like this in your organization? And if you do it that way, smartly and safely, you'll ensure it protects your data and your assets. So with that, I'll stop sharing and turn it back over to Angela, and feel free to stay on and ask any questions that you have. We're happy to provide additional responses, coaching, support for those on the call today. Thank you very much. Abraham's Consulting is for hosting us today.
Thank you, Greg, for your demonstration and for focusing on the 5 top 10 uses of Gen AI in the public sector. My audience here has been very quiet today, so I don't know. Please give us an idea of what use case was most important to you, or that you thought was more appealing to your organization. And if you're shy on here, please reach out to me directly. My name, as you know, is Angela Gibson, and you can reach me at agibson@abrahamsconsulting.com. We'd certainly like to sit down and have a consultation with you to determine how you plan to use Gen AI in your specific agency. But once again, thank you so much.
So Jairo, Stephen, Ryan, help us understand, was this information useful for you today? Was this helpful in terms of understanding a bit about how other organizations are using Gen AI? Thank you,
Ryan.
Ryan. Appreciate it.
It was very helpful. It was helpful. Thank you, Ryan. Feedback is always good, so we can know where we can improve for the future.
Was the level of productivity improvement that you're seeing here surprising to you all, or is it consistent with some of the things that you're already perhaps hearing about or seeing in your own world? When we say going from months to weeks or hours, sometimes people are, for good reason, skeptical. But the fact that we've had the opportunity to see it work ourselves really makes us believers, and we hope that we've been a believer of you this morning as well.
Ryan says it was consistent in what he's seen and heard about.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you so much. Stephen said he's interested in all you discussed. We're busy testing security before moving forward.
The good news, Stephen, is that a lot of that work around security, which I touched on several times in the webinar today, is something that we have a lot of experience with, and we're seeing different approaches taken by different organizations. I mentioned the enterprise instance being very important. We're happy to have a conversation with you, Stephen, to go deeper on what's been seen as best practice there.
Sounds good. Thank you, gentlemen, and I'll certainly be in touch with our follow-up calls as usual. Have a great day.
Take care, everybody. Thanks so much.
All right, bye-bye.